Wentz steps up. Here comes the rush. He is going deep, and it is caught. And in for a touchdown, Deshaun Jackson.
Give the people what they want.
If you're an offensive lineman on the Philadelphia Eagles, you're going to get hurt. It's just going to happen, and it happened again.
Well, you didn't like my Star Trek comparison, so unless you're Jason Kelsey, who's apparently indestructible. I don't want to jinx him, but it's pretty amazing how, he's missed 4 snaps this year, but now 6 offensive linemen out for the season, Jack Driscoll being the latest.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to figure out. This is the Eagle Eye Podcast presented by Nissan with Reuben Frank. I'm Dave Zangaro. We're going to talk about the offensive line about to start their 13th different combination in 14 games. We'll talk about the secondary, which is actually more banged up than the offensive line. Barrett Brooks is going to join us in just a little bit to talk about Jalen Hurts and the offense without Carson Wentz. And then at the end, we'll get into Jake Elliott a little bit. Just hasn't played very well recently. But, yeah, we'll start with the offensive line. Jack Driscoll reportedly out for the season. That report comes from NFL Network. It's a tough deal because he would have had these last 3 games to really build on, to get more experience. He could have used them. I thought he did some good things in his limited time this year. But this is now his 3rd injury this season. And this one finally puts him out for the year. Yeah,
he's just been banged up. And you just hope that it's just one of those years for him because he had such a good opportunity with Lane being hurt. He had the ankle. I think he missed 3 games earlier this year with an ankle. He's really good.
Then he had a different knee injury, or maybe the same one. I don't know.
Knee injury he missed a game, but he's pretty good. I was impressed with him. Tough, smart, physical. I mean, for him to be ready to start the opener without preseason games or anything and hold his own, that was impressive. 4th round pick. So it's a shame. We don't really know any details. And again, when the NFL Network reports something, I mean, that's the league. That's like the league announcing it, basically. So you know that it's an accurate report. That's a shame. So, Brandon Brooks, Andre Dillard, Jason Peters, be that as it may, Sue Opita's out for the year, and Lane with the ankle, and it's crazy. And they had set the NFL record for most different offensive lines like a month ago, and they've used like 4 different ones since then. And every line that they've used, at least one guy's out for the year. So whoever they play, and presumably Matt Pryor will play right tackle in Arizona, it'll be their 13th O-line in 14 games.
Yeah, and it's kind of a shame right now because that O-line played pretty well against a really good Saints team on Sunday. So you thought, okay, they played well. No one got hurt in the game that we noticed. They all played every snap. And then to find out this on Tuesday, you got to be like, oh, my God, are you kidding me? They have to go through this again. And for Driscoll, it's a shame because you thought you're going to have Mailata and Driscoll and Herbig get all these snaps at the end of the season that would really help them going forward, even if they're backups next year. Getting this experience for Driscoll is a big deal. Even if Mailata somehow isn't the left tackle next year, if Dillard comes back, at least you'd have all this experience. And Herbig, too. You expect Brandon Brooks to come back, and you expect the same Elliott. But to get these guys reps here at the end of a season that might be lost is important. And now Driscoll won't have that. I've never seen an offensive line go through anything like this. This is insane. And we were saying that a month ago. You're right. Yeah,
it is. And, I mean, it's just got to be a fluke. I mean, there's no other way to, they're all different injuries. Driscoll got hurt during the game, and he gutted it out. You got to give the kid credit for his toughness. He must have been in some significant pain to finish that game out. He's a tough dude. And, guys like Brooks and, JP's kind of out of the equation because he won't be here next year. He won't be here next year, but
Kelsey retires. You want to? JP's like, I've been snapping, Howie, I've been snapping this offseason.
He did tell us that a couple of years ago, back when he used to speak to us, that he actually took some reps at center at practice one day. Somebody told us that. It might have been Howie. But anyway, get him out of the equation. Lane is 30. Brandon Brooks has had a lot of injuries. Lane's ankle has been an issue for 3 years. So I'm not sure it's a slam dunk that those guys will be back healthy. I don't know. You certainly hope so. And obviously Brandon Brooks got hurt before, camp even began. So he should be healthy, but he's had injury after injury. And I just don't know about Lane. Now, Dillard and Mailata is certainly an intriguing thing when you look at next year. Who's going to be the left tackle? I kind of think that, obviously when you have a first round pick invested in a guy, you want him on the field, but Mailata's been, he's been better than Dillard was last year. Dillard didn't play bad in those 3 games he started. Buffalo, Dallas, and Chicago, I think. But Mailata's been better, I think, the last 3 weeks than Dillard ever was. And he's got more upside. He's just starting to learn. This is the first time he's ever played football this year. And he's still a young guy. I think he's 23. I think Dillard's actually older than him. I think Dillard's 24. But, if it was me, one's a 7 and one's a 1. But I think Mailata's got to be your left tackle.
They'll probably let them compete, but it's hard to imagine Dillard playing at this level.
Yeah, it is. It is. Mailata's really good. And I'll tell you what, we've killed Howie. Everybody's killed Howie. A lot of it's been deserved, but he finds offensive linemen. And other than one very prominent swing and a miss in the first round for a 30-year-old fireman, to lose 6 offensive linemen and still be able to put out there Mailata, Sam Malo, Kelsey, Herbig, and Pryor. It speaks a lot for the depth at the position, as well as Stoutland and his ability to get these guys ready. We were joking earlier that you could have an entire offensive line that's on IR. You could put together.
Yeah, and I'm not sure it's that much worse than the one they're going to put out there on Sunday.
I think
it might be better.
Yeah. So, Howie deserves some credit where it's due, and I think O-line is a position that, for the most part, Sua and Nate Herbig are both undrafted. Mailata's a 7. Pryor isn't very good. He was a 5 or a 6?
6.
Kelsey was back in the first, Howie's first. That was kind of probably more of an Andy Reid pick. We don't really know exactly the percentages, but it
was a Howard Mudd pick.
He could have been. Howard Mudd loved Kelsey, the late great Howard Mudd. But these are guys. Driscoll was a 4. So he's done well to find these guys, and he deserves some credit for it. The flip side, they signed this guy. I'm not even going to try to say his name. I'll leave that to you. From Washington's practice squad, we assume they're going to bring up Prince Tega, who was the 6th round pick, who was Driscoll's teammate in college. I'm not sure which one of them will be the first tackle in. Brett Toth is also on the team.
It's Ross Pierce-Baker, by the way.
Ross Pierce-Baker. Yeah. Pierce-Bacher or Pierce-Baker?
Baker.
I could use a nice Pierce-Bacher IPA right about now. Doesn't sound like a beer,
It does sound like a good beer.
Yeah, well, Pierce-Bacher, 9.2%.
But a 5th-round pick last year out of Alabama, he played with Jalen Hurts. He was Jalen Hurts' center in 2018 when Hurts was not really the starter, but became the starter for a bit. Yeah,
and he was a center at 6'4", and there was a point where Washington was pretty high on him. So, we'll see where he fits in, but he's versatile, which they like, and he's big, and, we'll see. He's never played on offense. He never played a snap. He played some special teams last year. But, and maybe Prince Tega's ready to contribute. He might have to, the way things are going. He's been on the practice squad all year.
A guy who we knew was raw coming in. Had the knee injury at Auburn, so we didn't really know if he'd be able to play this year. And, you'd figure, they've had Brett Toth on the active roster over him all year, so it kind of tells you where they think he is in his development, but you're not really having a choice this weekend. He's going to have to be up.
Yeah, and again, even if you sign somebody today, you wouldn't have him for Sunday. today's what, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I guess you could, if you pass. Yeah, I think you have to pass 6 days.
6 days. I don't know if you could.
Yeah, because you can't Sunday. It has to be 6 days as of Saturday when you activated them. So yeah, so even if you signed somebody today, you wouldn't have them. So Prince Tega is going to have to be up because he's already in the building. So you can elevate him. I guess they could elevate him. They don't have to put him on the 53. They haven't elevated him this year, right?
Maybe once, but they have 2 if they have once.
Yeah. I don't think they have. I don't believe they have because if you elevate a guy, he's going to play pretty much, and I don't think he's played. But anyway, be that as it may, it's a credit to really Jeff Stoutland. I mean, and I think the same goes for secondary and what we've seen over the last few years. But to get these guys ready is really incredible.
One of my favorite things Jason Kelce brought up a few weeks ago, and of course Kelce thinks like this, but he was asked why Stoutland's so good at developing the Sua Opedas of the world, and he said it's because how long Stout spent at the college ranks. Because in college, you need to. I mean, the freshmen coming in are going to be your seniors one day. You have to get them ready. So it's kind of like that college mindset with Stoutland that's kind of translated into the NFL, where he spends time with the third stringers, the practice squad guys, and that's really paid off this year. I don't know. Look, I'm sure a lot of coaches do that, but if you're not coaching them the right way, it doesn't really matter. So I give Stout a ton of credit. You're right. Howie deserves some of it, but I give Stout the credit for developing these kind of diamonds in the rough. And some of them aren't great. I mean, we've seen Matt Pryor struggle this year, but for a 6th-round pick to get as much as they've already gotten out of him is kind of impressive, honestly.
That's true. But I know you're just a hater, so you're not going to give Howie any credit, but that's okay.
A lot of the times we give Howie credit for these late round guys that only get to play because the early round guys can't. So it's like, yeah, sure, but
or because they get hurt. But
sometimes,
well, it's not like I'm voting for him for Executive of the Year, which he's already won once. But the injuries aren't just limited to offense. I mean, the secondary just got hammered on Sunday as well. Already kind of decimated. By the end of that, they were down 7 D-backs. Cravon and Craig James on IR. Graylin Arnold and Michael Jacquet were unavailable. They were out for the game with minor injuries. And then you lose Rodney, Avante, and Darius Slay. You're down 7 D-backs.
Yeah, it's tough. And this is not an unusual situation, honestly, for the Eagles. They've gone through this before. Really, 2018 was the really tough year for them in the secondary. But this is tough. This is a tough situation. So now they are without Rodney McLeod for the year. He has a torn ACL. Big loss for a guy who already came back from one ACL a couple of years ago. Over 30, has 1 year left on his contract. I mean, Doug Pearson made a point, or maybe it was Jim Schwartz made a point. One of them made a point to say that, he's overcome this before, but
yeah.
He's older now, and he has that 1 year left on his deal. Avante sounds like, it's a somewhat significant injury. He's going to miss some time. Well, there's only 3 games left. So, he could possibly be done for the year. And Darius Slay has to clear the concussion protocol before he can play. So there's a chance he might be without those 3 guys on Sunday. And, by the way, you're playing Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins, Christian Kirk, and Larry Fitzgerald on Sunday.
Yeah, it's a tough challenge. They might have Slay back. We don't know. We might not know until the end of the week. But even if they don't have him, we were trying to patch together a starting secondary here. And I guess the first thing, if Slay comes back, Jalen stays at safety, and then you have Epstein and you have Marcus Epps and Kayvon Wallace, the rookie. And then a corner, you have this Kayvon. So there's Kayvon, Cravon, and
Kayvon. That helps. It's Kayvon Seymour.
Yeah, there's Kayvon, Cravon, and Kayvon.
No, Kayvon, Cravon, Kayvon,
and Cliff Clavin. There's Clavin. But then you have Jacquet would probably start. I guess if Slay can't start, you probably have Jacquet and Mills, I would guess. And then you go Epps and.
Well, my guess would actually be they'd start. I don't know if it'd be the right decision, but they'd probably start Roby Coleman outside and slide him in on nickel situations.
You could do that. For what I've seen, Jacquet is probably a better outside corner than Nickel Roby Coleman.
Yeah. Although I'll give Roby Coleman credit. He hasn't been a good signing, and he had some really terrible moments this year, but he's played a little bit better recently. I know there was the bad missed tackle on Sunday. That's a tough ask for him to make that tackle. Overall, I think he's played much better in the last month.
Yeah, I still don't think he's an outside corner, though.
Yeah, but we're trying to figure out what they're going to do.
Yeah, that's true, too. But, I mean, especially you're looking at a pretty high-powered offense, and they have some great weapons. And even if they have Slay back, and, boy, he's just had a stretch of injuries. Some of these guys, I mean, you talk about Driscoll having 3 injuries. I mean, Slay's had 3 major injuries. And you just wonder how healthy he'll be, even if he does play at this point. And, yeah, I mean, this team is just snake bit. I mean, people think it's like the Super Bowl curse. Like, you win a Super Bowl, but you can have it. But we're just going to have your entire team hurt for the next 5 years. That's what it seems like sometimes. It
does. I mean, the rest of the league injuries are up seemingly this year. I mean, the Eagles are ahead of the curve. I mean, they've been injured now for 3 years. Honestly, in a season like this where they're so bad, at least some of these younger guys are getting snaps. I mean, that's a bright spot. A guy like Kayvon Wallace is going to get a lot of snaps in these last 3 games. Michael Jacquet might get a lot of snaps in these last 3 games. So at least you're getting some younger players a little bit of experience. That's why it's a shame that Davion Taylor's out for the year, because maybe he would have gotten some playing time. We'll see. I mean, that's a little bit of a silver lining to it, but yeah, it's been tough this year.
Yeah, and Sean Bradley's another guy, I think we'll see a little bit more of. But young guys getting playing time doesn't always, it's not always a good thing. It depends what you get out of them and, how much they really fit into the future. But, yeah, for this team, seeing the young guys is really the best thing, because the worst thing let's be honest, the worst thing that can happen with this team right now is winning the division. I mean,
I think the worst thing would be winning 3 games and not winning the division. And you still finish with a team's pick and not get to play a playoff game.
No, yeah, well, that's true. Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen.
It could. I mean, that could very well happen.
I guess it could. Washington's got a tough schedule. Well, I think Washington plays Seattle Sunday. Mm-hmm. I'll be interested.
Yeah, I mean, there's a chance that the Eagles could be eliminated from playoff contention, or they could control their own destiny by the end of this coming week, which is insane.
That's true, because if they win and Washington loses, since they play Washington, if they win out, they would win the division. So they would control, as Randall once said, they would control their own density. And he said that before Back to the Future was made. I'm trying to think how many guys have started every game for the Eagles this year. Would be Fletcher, BG, Kelsey, Rodney, and that'll end. Mill.
Rodney had played every snap until that injury.
Every snap for 2 years.
Yeah.
And then I think Slay. I think Slay started every game. So no, did he miss a game? I don't think he's missed a game. Missed some snaps. But yeah, interesting how those are all some of the older guys on the team, right? Kelsey, BG, Fletcher, and Rodney are all in their 30s, and they're like the only guys that have started every game.
It's hard to figure out. You went through
so much for the youth movement. They need an age movement.
Yeah, get older guys in here.
We didn't have an older movement.
You went through all the defensive backs the Eagles have had, and this is just me gloating because I was really proud of myself. Did I get all of them? You
forgot Patrick Robinson.
I eventually got him.
Yeah, after I told you had a 50-yard pick six of it.
No. This is revisionist history. You said he was on the 2017 team and had a significant role. You did not say 50-yard pick six.
Okay, that's fair.
But the reason I didn't get him was because I wasn't thinking about them actually on the field. I was thinking about like that spot in the locker room and trying to envision guys. And he was never at his locker, or very rarely at his locker. So I didn't think of him. But that's impressive. There were like 35 guys.
Yeah, Dave. I asked Dave how many of the D-backs he could mention that have played for the Eagles since 2016, when Jim Schwartz got here. Some of the guys that you pulled, I mean, it was pretty impressive. You know, the Trey Sullivans and Aaron Grimes and Trey Elstons and some of them dudes. Took you one was Ron Brooks. That surprised me. I know he's one of your favorite guys.
Who's that?
Ron Brooks.
Yeah. I also pulled DeAndre Hall, that was my most proud one.
Yeah, I don't know how you did that. Like, I couldn't name 5 of them. But it was funny because you forgot Nickel Roby-Coleman until the very end.
Yeah, it was. I don't know.
Because we've never seen him in the locker room.
That's true, maybe.
We have no idea where his locker is. We haven't been in the locker room since locker cleanout day in January.
Yeah, it's weird.
That is weird. If you're a football fan, you need to check out our new game Sunday Night 7 on the NBC Sports Predictor app. There's no reason not to play. It's totally free, and it's got $2 million in guaranteed cash prizes this season with $100,000 up for grabs every week. Just make 7 predictions about what will happen on Sunday Night Football for your chance to win some serious money. Download the NBC Sports Predictor app or head to NBCSports.com/predictor to make your Sunday 7 picks.
Joining us now on the Eagle Eye Podcast, presented by Nissan, our good buddy Barrett Brooks. Barrett, how you doing, man?
Good. What's up, fellas? Everything good?
Yeah, we can't believe we're talking about this Eagles team picking up a win against the Saints. We didn't see it coming, but
No.
It's exciting because we have Jalen Hurts to talk about and whether or not what you think of the future or what you think of the past, him getting here. Right now, it's exciting because he is a young, exciting player. He did some really good things in that game. Coming away from it, what were your impressions of him in his first NFL start?
I mean, the kid went out there and played a lot better than I thought he was going to play. I thought he was going to have a limited offense, what they were going to ask him to do. I saw a totally different offense from what I saw Carson run. And, everybody keeps saying to me, oh, no, it's the same offense. Well, I mean, you can't say it's the same offense because they're on 4th and 1. They ran a QB trap. They pulled the right side guard, and he ran up there as one-on-one against the safety, and he won. That's not something that they would ask Carson to do. The very next play, they ran a boot to the left. They're not going to run boot to left with Carson because that means he has to throw across his body. They thought enough of his athletic talent that they has Hurts to go boot left. Those are things that, we haven't seen Carson do. There hasn't been a lot of zone read, run plays, So, I mean, it is different in the aspect that they asked him to do a lot more than really I've seen Carson as far as not just with his legs, but decision-making with handing the ball off and everything else. So, I mean, it was to me, it was different.
You know what it kind of looked like? A little bit? It looked a little bit like what they used to do with Nick Foles.
I remember that.
Wow. Da-da-da. It works.
Didn't it? It does work. And that's the kind of the underlying issue in all this is that part of the offense works. And for whatever reason, a lot of the thing, and it wasn't even just that. I mean, we saw some other stuff that they pulled out in this game that for whatever reason we haven't seen with Carson Wentz.
Pre-snap motions?
Pre-snap
motions. Where'd that come from?
We saw them get back to mesh. I mean, when's the last time we saw that from this offense? So there were a lot of things like that. And it became a big point of questioning Doug this week is like, how are you able to call a game like this for Jalen, but not for Carson Wentz, who's in his 5th year with you?
I wonder how much Carson just wants to be a classic drop back, throw it 50 time passer. And how much of this is Doug just kind of an old fashioned, drop back, look at the field, go through your progressions, Drew Brees kind of Ben Roethlisberger, drop back and chuck it 50 times passer. And that Doug's play calling is just geared toward that. I'm just throwing something out here because when Doug was asked about why does it seem like your play calling for Nick and for Jalen have so much more depth? So there's just so much more to that. The only thing I could think of was that Carson has such a say in the offense when he's out there that maybe it's just what he wants. Maybe it's just what he's comfortable with. Maybe he doesn't want to do that other stuff. I don't know. It's a theory.
Yeah, well, I talk to guys on the team a lot, and just from speaking to the offensive line and guys like that, they're saying that Carson has some autonomy to change things, but they say probably 80% to 90% of the offense is just call and play. With the exception of a kill situation. Carson,
I'm not really talking about audibling as much as just how the game plan is.
Game plan, yeah, you're right. That I can definitely say. As far as him going in and understanding that, all right, I like this play here. I like that play there. This play suits me. I want to run this play. You're right. That might be a lot of what it is, but I can't for the life of me understand, the biggest thing that I saw in his offense is he executed the play. If the ball had to get out, the ball got out. I mean, if he saw somebody, he threw guys open on plays. That's what I hadn't seen in so long. The fact that he executed the offense. He made the offense work for him. If there was a pass there to make, he made the pass. How many times have we seen Carson make it so hard to throw a little drop pass out to the back, throw it at his feet, throw it over his head or to a tight end? You saw this kid execute it. And, that's what I saw from him, the most. Hurts just executed passes and throws we hadn't seen from Carson in a long time.
Yeah, and so many of those option plays, they're not really that in depth. I mean, a lot of those zone reads is the quarterback reads the end. If he crashes, you do one thing. If he doesn't crash, you do another. There's not a chance to overthink on those. And, when you're dropping back in the pocket, going through your reads, there's a lot to think about. And I think that has something to do with it too. I mean, a lot of these option plays are pretty simple. I mean, guys have to do the right things. They have to execute, but it's for a quarterback. It's, hey, do this, or if this isn't there, do that. And it's quick, it's simple, it's easy. And sometimes it makes me wonder if that wouldn't help Carson Wentz get out of a funk every once in a while.
Because doesn't it, it's a good word to describe Carson is cluttered. He's playing like his mind's cluttered. There's so much going on there, and it's so complicated, and it's too much for him, and he can't function. He can't be decisive. And, when you strip things down, I mean, Jalen was so quick. I thought one of the most impressive things, somebody was on Twitter saying, oh, he was 17 for 30. How many balls did he throw away? 5?
Right.
Those were 5 of my favorite plays because, you're not losing yards. You're living for another down. You're not making mistakes. You're not throwing into double coverage. You're not getting sacked for a 12-yard loss. Just throw it away. That's a really valuable play. And I was impressed with his, that's why, who cares about his completion percentage? Sometimes throwing it away is the best thing you can do.
Rube. That's the best thing I've heard in a while, man. The fact that, he understood that a play was exhausted. I mean, we didn't win that game. They ran that play. We didn't win that, that rep. That wasn't our rep. They won that rep. Let's go on. How many times, even in the Dallas game where, it was 12 personnel. And it's a blitz protection. They ran play action, a blitz protection, thinking that they were going to go on with a full-on blitz. Well, they didn't. They dropped back 5. So here we have 2 tight ends stayed in the block and a running back stayed in the block. It's a 2-man route. Over the top, there's triple team one wide receiver. The other team is double teamed. And Carson goes out the pocket and trying to exhaust the play. They're not going to get open and get sacked. It's a sack fumble. Those are the type of things that, Jalen Hurts didn't do this last game, which led to us winning the game because he was consistent at being a game manager, running the offense, executing the play, and if it wasn't there, get rid of the ball. I mean, great thing to see.
Yeah, and it wasn't a perfect game. And I think the important point to make is that if they were to ask Jalen Hurts to play the same type of game they've been asking Carson Wentz to play, I don't know if he could have done it. I don't know if Jalen could have dropped back 40 times and read the defense and gone through his regressions, but they didn't ask him to do that, and they didn't ask him to do it for a reason, because they identified his strengths and they played to them. And you're right, Rube, maybe there is some of Carson's influence that's screwing this up, but that clearly isn't Carson's strength right now. So why in the world do they keep bashing their heads against the wall? To me, if anything, the Hurts game kind of proves that, hey, maybe you can gear your offense toward one style of play and towards some plays that you think are going to work, some simple plays that you think are going to work. And it's an interesting dynamic. I don't know what's going to happen with Hurts over the next few games. I mean, he could play terribly the last 3 games. Who knows? But what I saw was an offensive coach and play caller who kind of has an idea what he's doing if the right guy's back there. And it's an interesting situation right now.
You know, at the end of the day, there can be 10 other guys on that field that can have a bad game on the offensive side of the ball. The one guy that can't is the quarterback. You know, you can have guys drop balls and, you know, you can play through it because you got other facets of the game. But the quarterback touches the ball every single play. And if he has a bad game, the total offense is bad. And we were showed that simplicity sometimes is better than trying to be this. And I've seen it happen where quarterbacks want to be a straight drop back quarterback, and it really kills their game. Big Ben is not a straight drop back quarterback. He's a guy that wants to exhaust every play, but he learned early that you can't do it. He eventually learned that, you know, the defense wins. You know, I was thinking Carson was going to work his way through because you can't be this bad after being so good the last part of last season. He took guys that weren't even supposed to be on the field at the time and won 4 games. And everybody said, oh, they were bad teams. It doesn't matter. You're playing against NFL caliber players, and you beat them. So I don't want to hear anything about he can't do it. He can do it. Now, how does he get this bad in just 1 year? This is historically bad. And it has to be all jumbled up in his mind. It has to be, you know, he's got a block right now that he's not allowing himself to get through it. He's pushing too hard. Those are things that I can understand. But he can't go any worse than he is right now. He's got to go up. And we're talking about Hurts being the guy, you know, I understand it, but I'm a numbers guy when it comes to NFL contracts. I've seen so many guys, including myself, get screwed because somebody else is making more money than them. Even though the talent may be better, the money's going to win out, and that's all I'm saying. Hurts will not be the starter going into next year. I think they'll give him a chance to compete, depending on what happens, you know, in his offseason. Because, I mean, even if he plays well now, at this point, defensive coordinators paid millions of dollars to stop offenses. And he will eventually get a playbook in which teams will take, and they'll show a way to stop him. Can he get past that? Can he grow past that? But Carson next year, I think, will be the starter going into next season.
You know, I wanted to ask you, Barrett, about this is the first game since week 2 the Eagles didn't go up any sacks. They'd given up 3 or more 10 straight games, which is the 6th longest streak in NFL history.
Wow.
3 or more sacks. They're on pace to allow the 13th most sacks in NFL history. And all of a sudden, it was a clean game from the O-line. And I'm sure part of that had to do with JP not being out there and Driscoll being at right tackle, who, you know, we'll get to that. He's now done. But how much of the O-line not giving up any sacks? I think I know what your answer is going to be. How much of that is Jalen Hurts, just his decisiveness, getting rid of the ball, throwing it away, making quick decisions in the pocket, and not standing there like a sitting duck waiting for the pressure to get to him?
Absolutely. That's absolutely what it is, because you're putting the offensive lineman in a greater position. We understand that the usual play, if you can block for a guy for 2.5 seconds, it's usually the ball's supposed to be out the quarterback's hand. Carson was sacked, I think, 33 to 38 times with holding the ball for 4 seconds or more.
4 minutes, like it.
4 seconds or more. So, but I think it also has a lot to do with, you know, the way Doug called the game. Now, there wasn't a lot of yards, with the exception of that big play that you had with Sanders, but just running the ball, 3 yards on first down, 4 yards on second down. Now it's third and manageable. When you run the ball, it gives the offensive line a chance to fire off, become aggressive, initiate contact as opposed to falling back, and pass blocking is easier. And once you've done it, you know, throughout the game, Now that defense saying, all right, they're still going to run the ball. So I got to, monitor how I come off the ball or what I'm going to do when I come off this ball, because it's not a gimme that it's going to be a pass play. A la with Carson Wentz, you knew he was going to throw the ball at least 45 to 50 times a game. It's a totally different mindset as an offensive lineman, because now hey, I could run it, I could pass it, and you're not giving the defense a chance to just fire off in the offense. That had a lot to do with their ability to move the sticks, because they stayed on time with their offense. It was third and manageable for a great part of the game. And you can pick up those third downs when it's 3rd and 3, as opposed to, with the Eagles offense these last couple of weeks, where it's been, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 15, holding call or a sack. They stayed on time with the offense. And that's the big key on why that offensive line has some success.
Yeah, I mean, it had to feel like for the O-line, with the combination of Carson's lack of pocket presence and the way Doug called the game, it just had to feel like, man, help us out a little bit here. We've had like all these injuries. We're on like our 18th right guard at this point. Like, help us out a little bit. And they finally did. You hit on Miles Sanders a little bit. One of the things we saw in this game, even on the 82-yard touchdown run, having Jalen Hurts as the quarterback is going to open up some running lanes, because we saw that linebacker just like a split second late getting to Miles because he had to account for the quarterback. There's something there, Barrett. I mean, having Jalen Hurts in the game could really help Miles Sanders, couldn't it?
Absolutely. And the biggest thing is it makes defenses accountable for their gaps. It makes them play gap control defense. You have to play within the framework of the defense. When you had Carson back there, you could basically just freelance and dive into a hole or dive into a gap. Or if they ran boot protection, he wasn't going to boot. They were just going to drop back a pass. Well, as a defensive end, he could boot your way. And if he boots your way and you're not there, he has the potential to take it for 15 to 20 yards. So you have to say gap discipline. So those outside ends couldn't crash like they did and rush the passer like they did against Carson. You have to keep lane discipline, because he can go up under these pass rushers and get outside or go into the middle of the offensive line and get through those gaps if you don't keep your gap discipline. It makes you play fundamental football when you have a guy that can move around like that, because he's, it's usually the number count with defenses. All right, they've always got one more than the offense because the quarterback is never a factor. Well, now he becomes a factor. Now you have to account for the quarterback. It puts you in a totally different mindset, because now you have to be disciplined on what you're doing, knowing that this guy is good enough to go out there and make a play with his legs.
All right, Barrett, before we let you go, I just want to kind of get your take. Jalen Hurts, we kind of assume, unless something goes terribly wrong, he's going to have 3 more games here in this season. What do you expect from him? Do you expect him to be able to keep playing at this level, or do you think these defenses are going to catch up a little bit?
Well, they're going to catch up a little bit, but, as he gets more experience, he's going to gain more knowledge of the game, and he's going to start seeing things that he saw from other games, which is going to help his game out. He's going to mature as he plays more. His sense of, the speed of the game will also increase. He's going to get better, but defense is also going to start getting better at defending him. I just hope that he doesn't go into a position where it gets bad on him and they start doing things that are contrary to what his skill set is. They must continue to run the ball consistently and make sure they put him in better positions, as far as keeping him out of harm's way. Don't have him out there just freestyling. Make sure that he sticks to the game plan you have. If it's, your RPOs, run your RPOs. Don't get back to get into that, all right, we're going to drop back and pass it 50 times, because you could really hurt a kid's progression if you do that.
All right, Barrett, we'll talk to you again next week.
Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate it.
Who are you picking, Barrett?
What'd you say?
Who are you picking Sunday?
Oof, that's tough, man. I mean, I can't say right now because, at this point, the Cardinals aren't playing as well as I've seen them play. And, Murray's still playing a little hurt. So Hurts is doing all right. And he got some belief in that locker room. So, at this point, yeah. Okay. I'm a homer. I'm a homer. Thanks a lot,
we'll
guys.
catch you next week.
Yep.
'Tis the season to thrill at the Nissan year-end sales event. Get in and then get out and experience the most riveting ride of the year in a brand new Nissan. These savings on Nissan's lineup are sure to raise your pulse.
Thanks, as always, to Barrett Brooks. We always enjoyed chatting with him. We don't have much left to get to today. We have to talk about Jake Elliott, though. Missed a 22-yard field goal on Sunday. And earlier in the season, when we talked to Dave Phipp, the Eagles special teams coordinator, he really went out of his way to defend Jake Elliott and kind of put his full confidence behind him. Even he had to admit that, Jake Elliott's not playing very well right now.
Yeah, I mean, a 22-yard field goal is about a 98% kick. It's been 27 years. I mean, you don't really attempt that many, especially when Doug Peterson's your coach, because if you're that close, you're going to go for it, in most circumstances. That means you're on the, the 4-yard line, So the first time an Eagles kicker has missed one since Matt Barr in 1993. And it's kind of, I think the phrase Dave Phipp used was hard to fathom. And it is. And it's not just one kick. It's been really a steady decline for him since that incredible. I mean, in the Super Bowl, the kid as a rookie made two 40-yard field goals in the fourth quarter. I think a 42 and a 46. Really high pressure, 100 million people watching a Super Bowl fourth quarter against Belichick, and he just crushed those kicks. And now, like, every PAT's an adventure, and it is hard to fathom, but he's not the same kicker he was. You're looking at a $5 million plus cap hit if you cut him, but you just can't count on him now. So I don't know if I don't know what you're going to do. It's a really tough situation. I gave him 4 years, $19 million contract.
Yeah, made him a top 10 highest paid kicker.
Yeah, so then you watch that Ravens Browns game, and Tucker comes out and makes a 55-yard field goal, game winner on national TV on Monday night, and everybody in the building knew he was going to make it.
Yeah. Tucker would have made that 22-yarder in a hurricane.
Yeah. Yeah, well, there's some pretty bad crosswinds apparently, last night too, and it just kind of, emphasizes the disparity between the best kickers and where they are now, and where Jake Elliott is. He's made 72% of his kicks this year. That's the lowest by an Eagle if it was over a full season since Norm Johnson in '99, which led to David Akers becoming the Eagles kicker the next year. And kicking every year, kickers get more and more accurate. If you look at the numbers, the accuracy, like if you made 83% of your kicks 10 years ago, you would have been the most accurate kicker in NFL history. Now you make 83% and you're in the middle of the pack. And he's making 72. He's like, that's like nobody makes 72% of the kicks anymore. So, and now
he's one of the worst in the league. He's the only kicker in the league who's missed 2 kicks in the 20s this year.
Interesting. It's a good stat. Jealous. I wish I came up with that. StatHead's field goal finder is really, really good.
It's fun to nerd out on a little bit. The weird thing with Elliott this year is he's perfect from 30 to 49, but he's missed 2 short kicks, and I think he's 2 for 5 on 50 plus. So it's hard to figure, if he was making everything from inside 50 and missing the deep ones, it wouldn't be great because you need to make those long kicks, but it would at least be understandable. You could wrap your head around it. The fact that he's perfect on mid-range and bad on the 2 extremes is weird. And he's also, in the last 3 weeks, he's missed 2 PATs and the 22-yarder. So there's something happening up close. And then from deep, he's not reliable either. It's a problem, Rube.
He kicked a 44-yarder earlier in the game Sunday, and he crushed it. He looked great. The operation looked great. He's got the same holder and snapper he's always had. It's not like his 44-yarder was wobbling and barely went over. It wasn't like a carry spear kick or something, murder leg kick. But I don't know. I don't know what's going on. There was a weird exchange where somebody asked Dave Phipp about him, and he started to say he's still confident, and then he stopped in the middle. He didn't say that. And
he got the
he got like conf. He says, he's still conf, and then he stopped. Like, I don't know what that was all about, but it sure sounded like he was about to say he's still confident. But he didn't say it. And then he was asked about that, and he said, well, you'd have to ask him, and then he kind of said, yeah, if you're missing these kicks, I'm sure that's not easy for a kicker to handle. So much of kicking is mental.
It really is. I mean, I think the mental part of it then leads you to overanalyze the technical aspect of it. And then I think you get into a situation where you see him drill a 22-yarder off the left upright. I thought they were going to have to readjust the upright. He hit it so hard. like when a guy dunks and they have to fix the rim. Yeah.
Yeah, he did. When you doink it from 22 yards away, that's a pretty high impact doink. I think the thing about kickers, they're all very cerebral because, they spend most of the time on the bench just watching and thinking and waiting. Most of the time at practice, they're not kicking. They're just kind of standing there thinking and pondering. And what if I miss this? What if I make this? You saw Cody Parkey, he's been even worse than Jake Elliott. And in that game, he almost felt bad. You see him like going out. He actually made the PAT that tied the game before the Ravens went down and won it. What a crazy game that was. But he looked terrified. I just think so much of this is mental. More as a kicker. I don't know any other position in sports where so much of it is mental. I just, it's kind of like free throw shooting, I guess, where, you just have so much time to think about it. And you have to be really mentally tough. And I just don't know if he is right now.
Yeah, and there are enough problems in this season. He's one that might be a problem next season, too, because of that contract. You're right. They could cut him and take that cap hit, but they've got enough cap stuff to worry about. Can you really afford to take a cap hit on a kicker?
Well, the thing is, you can replace a kicker with a minimum wage guy. So it would cost him. I think his cap figure is like 3.2 next year, and the dead money's 5. So it's not going to cost 5 more. It's going to cost, 1.8 more plus whatever you pay the undrafted rookies and Dayhouse that you pick up from, Northern Arizona. But it's a concern. They really don't have the room. It's almost like Wentzian where, it's just such a decline from, that elite level down to where he is now. And it's happening too much. It doesn't seem like a fluke with him anymore. It seems like he's just not a good kicker right now.
Can Carson kick?
That's a really interesting theory. It could solve a lot of issues with, maybe they should cross-train him.
Jake at QB, Carson the kicker. Let's run it back.
I don't know about the Jake part, but
I don't know about the Carson part either. This is the part where I should mention, if you guys enjoy the Eagle Eye podcast, please do us a favor, rate and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. You got anything else before we wrap this up?
No, we got a blizzard coming in apparently tomorrow.
Apparently it's not as bad as
Oh really?
Yeah. My key meteorologist, my mother, called me today to let me know. I think my parents just watched the news and weather like 24/7. So I definitely have a pretty good grasp on it right now. I'm hearing 1 to 3 inches during the day, maybe another 3 inches at night on Wednesday.
That's not bad. I'll take that.
Not bad at all.
Oh, Daryl Morey followed me on Twitter, the Sixers president. So that was exciting. That was
interesting. He's a cool guy. He's an interesting mind.
Yeah,
in the
he
sports
is.
world.
And Todd Bridges retweeted me last night about Jake Elliott of all things. Todd Bridges from Different Strokes, the actor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I didn't recognize the name at first.
So that's my brush with fame for the day. Todd Bridges. Yeah. He doesn't follow me, but he retweeted me twice. And he's apparently an Eagles fan, but he's from the Bay Area, so I'm not really sure what the deal is there. Maybe we can have him on the podcast sometime.
Okay, let's do that. All right. Thanks, everyone, for listening. For Reuben, I'm Dave. We thank Barrett Brooks. This has been Eagle Eye presented by Nissan. We'll talk to you guys later in the week.